We're good. Okay, let's dive in. Raj, thank you so much for coming back onto the second floor. Season 2,
Yeah.
brand new studio. Last time we had you, we were kind of in different spots. We were in a cafe. We were in my old office, and now we are in the new studio. So
New digs. Yeah, the official studio.
Yeah.
It looks good in here, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
It feels like the set of like a 90s or late 90s film studio.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like in here.
No, it is great. Me and Kenny wanted to give a little bit of a different vibe, and now we have this setup. But thanks so much for coming. I wanted to get into what we were talking about the last 20 minutes. It was abundance mindset. Our audience members are looking for value. They're looking for things, to strive and get to the next level. That's the whole concept of the second floor. And I think this topic is perfect, and how abundance mentality is just as important as execution and everything else that we've talked about on the second floor. Can we get into, what is abundance mentality to you and why it's important?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what we're talking about today is a mindset. It's a mental approach towards approaching situations, whether they be personal and or business. And it's a mindset towards how do you use your mind to channel your energy to achieve whatever you want to achieve, to achieve an experience, to achieve success, to achieve a challenge. So we're going to talk about the mindset today, I think.
Yeah.
The topic you identified is abundance mentality, which is really the mindset of there's plenty out there. And that, if you believe truly at your core that there's plenty out there, plenty of love, plenty of business opportunities, plenty of situations that are worthy of your experience, then your energy will go towards that. Your effort, your belief, your time, you will, if you had a bowl full of fruit, the fruit will be multiple colors as a result of your energy put towards that mindset. On the opposite side, if you have a scarcity mentality, then you may believe that there's not plenty out there, or there's a lack of abundance. And if you don't believe that there's plenty out there, then your energy will not go towards it. You will not believe, and your bowl of fruit will look more empty and more boring. And there's reasons for both of those, but we are human. We're creatures of imperfection. And if we have an opportunity to make a little bit of a change, obviously you want to trend, if possible, towards that direction in order to have a more colorful bowl of fruit.
You're right. And I feel like it's easy to get into the scarcity mindset when things are unknown to you. When you look at certain things that people do, or maybe there's certain goals you want to achieve.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go towards the scarcity mindset because you've never actually known that area of whatever it is. So in your approach, how do you approach certain goals or certain things? And we were talking about this earlier about the hierarchy, and I want you to get into that. But if, in my experience, there's been certain cases where, I'm just going in either my goals or my business, that I'll forget the personal side, or I'll forget to eat, after 10 hours of work, and I'm like, oh, I got to eat. How does one go about that approach?
Well, let's go back to the uncertainty for a second first.
Yeah.
So you're right. If we're approaching a new situation, whether it be personal or professional, we may have questions about what might this look and feel like. And if there's an uncertainty, humans tend to fill in the uncertainty with fear or hope or some healthy mix of the two, right? So you kind of have to self-identify, what are my current mental habits? If I'm in an uncertain situation, do I tend to fill it in with uncertainty and fear? And do I get worried? Do I get anxious? Do I avoid? That's okay. Just identify it for yourself. Or do I approach it with hope? And do I think, oh, this is kind of cool. This is exciting. This is perhaps invigorating. This is what I need or I want. Where do you sit? What are your habits? And then if your habits serve you, call it a wash, move along. If your habits don't serve you and you feel like, yo, maybe there's something I can change here. Maybe I get too excited. I have to pull myself back a little bit. Or maybe I get too worried. I have to give myself more hope. Like, where do I fall and where can I fine tune my own mindset? And that's for each person to identify for themselves. You might need your friends, your family to help you, but really it's up to the person. Now going back to the other topic of how to approach, let's call it success. There's one end where it's very present focused, and that would be like, for example, today. And there's another end which is very future focused, and we'll get there in a second. So the today approach is very much like, what do I need and or want to do today, either because of fun or to achieve a goal? And in order to do that, we're human. We have to follow Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need food, shelter, water, and love. So in order to fuel your own existence, to achieve whatever you want to achieve today, you have to eat, you have to have a roof over your head, you have to have water, and you have to have love, and you have to give and take love. So, first off, serve your human needs and make sure that you're doing those well. And if you do those well, now you can take your energy that you fueled and channel it towards whatever it is that you want to do. On the future side, this becomes a bit of a bigger project, but you might have to sit down and have a scheming session. And the scheming session, let's say you have a goal for November 2021 or December 2021. It's roughly a year away.
Right.
And if that's for your business or your personal life. If that's your goal, you have to define it. You have to define it either on paper or in verbal. And once it's been clearly defined, then you have to ask yourself, what will it take to help me achieve that goal? And it might take a process of 10 steps.
Right.
So if you work back, you have to sequence those steps and decide, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, all the way up to step 10. And you have to decide when you're going to take the first step. Hopefully, the first or second step are also large dominoes. So you take the first step and you start working through the process, and you have markers along the way to check your progress. But you also hope that that first or second step is a large domino, that when it falls, it leads to more energy, more momentum, more motivation to complete the other steps. Conversely, if that first step is kind of boring, you might not have the motivation to continue, and then the project falls off. So you want to strategically establish your goal, work the backward steps to get to that goal, and take the first or second step. That has to be, in an ideal world, a large domino, which leads to the rest.
And I love that. And I want to talk about going into it, urgency. How does urgency fall into this entire thing?
Urgency is sometimes out of our control. It could be a COVID pandemic. It could be a personal situation. It could be one's own health. So part of it is to a degree out of our control. So you have to self-identify, where am I at as a human? And like, how am I doing? I think what you're getting at, though, is creating your own healthy urgency in order to create energy and motivation and fueling towards progressing. So if you've established where you are today, this is kind of how I'm doing, fitness, family, my own mental space, I'm sleeping well, etc. And then I want to get to here, then you have to create that healthy urgency somehow. That might be with strategic planning. That might be with putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation on purpose. That might be by surrounding yourself by others who have kind of done it before and have some influence over you, right? So healthy urgency is a strategy that certainly you can use, and when used repeatedly, you'll start getting good at it. Yeah.
And do you? And I know I'm kind of nitpicking because I'm very curious, but me personally, on my end of things, I feel like the urgency I've created is by surrounding myself with people who have that same healthy urgency in whatever they're striving in. And talking about these things and speaking about certain things to remind myself of where I'm headed or where I want to get to.
Sure.
And so this is, this whole platform, the Second Floor platform, has allowed me to also stay in the healthy abundance mindset by bringing on others who have certain values that I want to portray in my own life. And it's allowed me to expand out of my own, so to speak, barriers.
And you're surrounding yourself with people, and the messaging that's coming your way and the messaging that's coming to the audience's way is of humans that are imperfect, that have had something successful occur to them that they want to share. So you're getting messaging that's kind of positive, right? Your overall theme is positive, right? And versus negative, right? You don't have a bunch of guests that are bringing you down. A bunch of guests that are bringing you up.
And I feel like that has allowed me to stay, quote unquote, in that abundant mindset all year round. And I feel like the last 2 years I've done my own personal transformation in my own life, in my own habits. Now, for those who potentially want to get to this abundant mentality and mindset, maybe they have a bar, they have a line that, you know, maybe they are striving. You know, we have a lot of audience members that are feeding themselves with this positive and abundant mindset. But it's very easy to say and it's very easy to think, but it's harder to execute. And so how, and I know you talked about this earlier, but you said going straight into discomfort, you know, following that, finding it in your own life, going towards it, and you find that that's very healthy. How far does one need to go in their own personal life to, you know, get that discomfort? Now, I know a lot of people, they will, like, again, we have New Year's resolutions, we have certain goals, we have that 12-month marker. But when you get to the 3-month mark, that's when it becomes actual work. You know, the phase of the honeymoon phase ends, and this is now work, and it's going against your own grain, so to speak. So how far does one need to go in order to make it into a habit? How far does one need to go in order to continuously have that abundant mindset in whatever they're achieving? Because you know that results don't come in 3 months or whatever it ends up being. Whatever, if it's a very big goal, you will not see results physically manifest within 3 months. Right. So
I think one has to just really like appreciate the journey. You know, because if you get a goal in 3 months, or you get a goal in 9 months, or you get a goal in 2 years, and you didn't get there without the journey. And you will not get to the next goal without the journey. The journey is by definition that's where the work occurs, that's where the process occurs, and that's from where the results come. That's the only reality that you can invest in. You can't invest in the result. It's going to be somewhat out of your control. So that's just it. So if you become attached to the result, mentally or psychologically, that can be a hindrance because you might not get there. You might ascend it, you might descend it, you might get there later, you might never get there. So you know what you can control is your effort, your time, and your commitment to the process. So if it's a New Year's resolution, let's take that as an example. January, I do really well. February, I fall off the wagon a little bit. I tell myself after Valentine's, I'll get back on track, and I never get back on track. And then March comes and the resolution's over. I'll wait till next year. Yeah. Pretty common story, right? You see gyms, attendance goes up in January, drops in February. This is pretty common year over year. But the ones that did not drop off, they had a common approach of, I'm committed to the process, to the journey. I'm not necessarily committed to a result, right? So, like, I think you have to become connected to the steps, become connected to the process, and just truly enjoy each minute of every day working towards that. Not really enjoy the result, because that will be fleeting. That result, once you achieve it, you will have achieved it, and then what? And you're left with emptiness again. So that can't be like the only driver. The driver has to include a lot of enjoying the journey.
Do you carry a chip on your shoulder?
No. No. I did before. There's previous times in my life, but No, that's the chip on the shoulder analogy, I think, is relating to ego. If I did have a chip on my shoulder, usually that means that I want to prove somebody wrong, or somebody has wronged me, or, I need to prove something to myself. Like, it's kind of that stuff. And those are the flavor of that commentary is ego driven. So that's certainly not my first approach, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. That can drive people.
Yeah.
That can motivate people. That can create a lot of hunger. That can create a lot of urgency. That can actually make a lot of results happen. So use it. If you have it, use it, channel it, but also be aware of it. Don't be ignorant to the fact that that is what's driving you. It's okay. But, at the end of the day, be aware of what your drivers are.
How often do you self-reflect? I know
like every day at least.
Every day.
Yeah, and probably all the time. Like, there's just a process of ongoing. I don't know the answer. It's frequent. It's highly frequent. Yeah, it's at least every day. Yeah, to some degree.
And that allows you to kind of keep that abundance mentality going.
Yeah, they're connected. They're not cause and effect.
Okay.
They're connected. I believe, I self-reflect because I value the process, and I like asking myself, how did I do over there? Could I have done better? Could I have done worse? Would I have done that a year ago? Well, that's kind of interesting. So I like looking at those things. I'm curious about that. And then that also gives me space to bring ego down and improve. It gives me space to do that. Now I have the mindset of there's plenty out there. We're very lucky. We're very, very, I'm very thankful to live where we live and have what we have. So I believe it's my responsibility to self-reflect and act in that direction. If I don't, that means I will be more ignorant. That's the reality. If I don't self-reflect, I will be more ignorant. If I do self-reflect, I will be less ignorant and still not perfect, right? So they're connected, but they're not, one doesn't cause the other. They're two mindsets that I have, and I think people should use them in a way that serves them, in a way that serves the greater good.
Is giving a cause of abundance mentality?
No, I think giving is an effect. So if you believe there's plenty out there, then you'll give. You'll share. If I believe there's plenty of time, I'll give you my time. If I believe there's plenty of money, I'll give you gifts. If I believe there's plenty of food, I'll share my plate with you. If I believe that there's plenty out there, I'm more likely to share. That's so it's the effect of the mindset. Yeah.
Do you think, and there's a lot of people that, are volunteers, the people that do give when potentially they might not be in a position to give, but they do give.
Sure.
They might have that abundance mentality and they might be able to give. I'm in the belief that you're able to give at any time, but I feel like if you work on yourself and you get to a certain position, you're able to give more and you're able to do more. Now, especially in society today, in our society, there's this whole thing of achieve, go, individualism. A lot of it is individual driven. And so the giving is kind of put on the back burner, and it's, you gotta have the healthy body. You gotta have a social media presence. You have to run a business these days. Business is glorified. Entrepreneurs are glorified in this day and age. Everybody wants to be their own boss.
It's the grind and hustle mentality.
The grind hustle mentality, right?
Yeah.
And so that also causes scarcity mindset, I think, in certain scenarios. It
can, yeah, because then those people might be using their time to drive those things and less of their time to give to others or give back, or
that's
whatever
right.
that might look like.
Now, me going through my journey with the podcast and, the music and a lot of the projects that I'm doing, I've realized that those who are in positions of, again, I believe this is all abundance mentality, but I feel like the more you give at the other end of things, the more you get.
Right.
You get back.
Yeah, there's a return, right?
But it's tough to get into that mindset if you're always go, me, got to get more money, got to have that body, got to. So it's a lot of this, me. So for those, especially guys and girls that are coming up, how do you get into a position of having that mentality of, if I give more down the road, I may get, but giving is the getting detached from the whole thing of me, but knowing that giving is actually a good thing because down the road it will potentially lead to something positive.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know that I'm the right person to ask that question to, but I'll try.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll have the perfect answer because it's something that I've struggled with too over the years.
Yeah.
For me, it's been trying to figure out how much time and energy is driven towards bettering myself, which I do believe is important, and I have no problem with that. Bettering my business, which I also believe in and don't have a problem with that. But balancing that with other things, such as philanthropy, charity, giving back to others. All of this is important. So finding the balance is where I put my effort. I don't think I've mastered it yet, but I have certainly worked towards it. So the first step is awareness, I guess. I can for sure say that much, is being aware. Like if you said some people are so stuck on one thing and they're not even aware of the others, then it just won't happen. So the first step is awareness. After that, I think you play with a few things and see what works for you and see, where do you find intrinsic value in giving without looking for the return? Because if you're looking for the return, it's still self-driven. So I think that if you truly want to give. And that's the win. That's the return, is the fact that you got to give. This is getting into philosophy now. I don't know who the philosopher is, but there is a philosopher out there that there's a philosophical debate that exists in the philosophical community about this. Do people give, and is that selfish? Or do people give, and is that selfless? And I don't know that there's ever been an answer, because it's a little bit of both.
It is.
If I give something to you, I might feel good.
Yes.
That made me feel good, so I got a return.
Yes.
So was that selfish? Maybe. Or did I give to you and that's selfless? I don't know the answer. But I'm at peace with it being both, with the understanding that I'm not giving to you for the sake of a return. Like if I want to give to you, it's just because I want to give to you and that's it. I don't want to look for the return. I don't want to worry about that. I don't want to think about that. So I give to you, and that's it. You can say thanks. I'll say you're welcome.
Yeah.
But that's the reason. That's all it is for me. It ends there.
Right.
So if you're giving for the sake of the return, then you're still kind of acting self-driven. That seems to be the motivator. So I don't know that I'm giving the right answer here, but I think a balanced approach and awareness is the key, and then using it in a way that does ultimately, if you are in a position to give and able to give in something, in a direction or charity or philanthropic effort or time that is meaningful to you, then give. And that's the return.
I kind of want to switch directions a little bit and kind of getting back into the mentality side of things. Now, I know, me and you are fans of Kobe, the late Kobe Bryant. And obviously we cherish what he's done as a human being and his kind of values and characteristics. But the whole idea of obsession, I've been very intrigued, and a lot of guys who have achieved the pinnacles of success, if you will, always say they're obsessed about the one thing that they've done, and that's what's led to their success. What are your thoughts on obsession? What are your thoughts on that obsessive confidence that is like the normal average human being can't even really fathom? They're so left field or they're so right field. Sure. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Kobe Bryant is one example. Michael Phelps is another example. Michael Jordan is another example. So there are, these are athletes, but in that world, there's a few examples of people that are historically been successful. They were born with some talent. They were born with some genetic gifts, but they there's a bunch of people that are born with talent and genetic gifts, and there's only a few of them who tend to ascend to that level of success. So the differentiating factor, the narrative is that it's the obsession or the work ethic or the reps or not letting anything else get in the way. That requires sacrifice too, right? Kobe very, very clearly identified that he has very little friendships, and no time was spent, or very little time was spent in socializing, because the time was used elsewhere. The time was used to train 2 or 3 a day, eat, recover, stretch, hot tub, cold tub, practice, film review, sleep, repeat. So his time was used on his craft, and therefore time was not used in creating bonds with friends or cousins or things of that nature. So there's a natural sacrifice that will be involved with obsession. And if there's people out there that are driven to do it, do it. I'm not going to stand in your way. I'm going to celebrate that for you. But let's also recognize that those are the outliers, right? The vast majority of people are not obsessed. And that's okay too. I celebrate that. If your approach is not obsession, and your approach is, I like having a beer with buddies on Friday, working hard on Monday to Friday afternoon, but done at 3, and then Saturday I want to chill, that's okay. That's awesome. Celebrate that. So I don't think people should be obsessed necessarily. I think if you're obsessed and that's a quality you have, channel it, harness it, use it, celebrate it. If it's not a quality you have or want, there's other qualities you have and want, and celebrate those and use those, harness those, right?
Where do you fall under that spectrum? Are you obsessed for certain things? Are there things that, or in certain periods of your life, have you been? Were you obsessed over certain things?
Yeah, of course.
Were you obsessed over your business, or were you obsessed over a certain goal or something that you wanted to attain?
Yeah, absolutely. And there might be times in the future too, where that might happen. So there have been times I was obsessed with getting into physio school. That was like, I can think back and realize that all of what I just said to you, the sacrifices, no socializing, all those things were true for those couple of years. And I very clearly remember making a conscious choice. This is what needs to happen in order to get in. And there's been other times too, right? So for sure, that's an experience I've had, and I've gotten value out of it, and I'm at peace with it, and I channeled it for what it was. But I also don't want to live my life that way all the time. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't sustainable for me. What was the second part of the question?
Second part was, have you ever, I guess the idea was, have you ever been obsessed over something that you wanted to attain? Yeah, I mean, of course, there's business goals that we have, and there's, I wouldn't call it obsession, but there's a certain amount of drive and energy and time and force, like energy and like muscle and effort. Effort is the right word. There's a certain amount of effort that's required to make those things happen. So I'm very driven to make those things happen. Do you obsess over details?
At times, yeah, at times. But not like every little detail. There's other people that do things really, really well in our team. And a lot of times it's the best answer is actually get out of their way, or kind of get out of their way, or check in a little bit. So certainly I'm mindful of those variables. Yeah. Interesting.
And as a physiotherapist, and I want to kind of bring that up, is how does the body play with mentality? With the mind and the body, how does that...
That's a beautiful topic.
Yeah, and I've noticed over the last couple of years, and just as a friend looking from the outside, is I feel like you've focused on yourself in terms of your health, and especially it shows from your body, right? Mm-hmm. You've done a lot of cycling over the past couple of years, running, keeping yourself fit, keeping your body healthy. How do those two things connect to one another?
They connect in so many ways, at least in my view. So let's go to the negative side for a second. There's a lot of science that demonstrates to us that lack of exercise, poor fitness level, lack of activity, so a sedentary lifestyle, like this direction of habits, is associated with other health factors, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, and is connected to pain. So people are uncomfortable, right? So there's no cause and effect necessarily, but all this stuff kind of goes together. On the opposite side, it's the opposite. People that tend to be more active, that tend to be mobile, that live active lifestyles and eat well, tend to have better cardiovascular health, better or less obesity, less pain, more comfortable. So that's just like bare bones, raw data. Connecting it to the mindset is if you have less pain, you're going to have energy to use elsewhere. Versus if you have pain, your mind is going to go towards the pain to a certain degree. And that means if you have 100 energy units and 20 of them go to pain, you only have 80 left. So now you have less energy to commit to something else, whatever that might be. But let's get real. Confidence comes from many places. External validation, internal validation, self-esteem, self-identity, how I look in the mirror, how I feel, how I slept. All of these things contribute to self-confidence. So for me, exercise, fitness increases my endorphin levels, puts me in a flow state, helps me deliver what I want to deliver to my family from like a, energy perspective. I want to be able to give as a father and give as a husband. It allows me to give my energy to my patients as a physio. So all of it kind of goes together in that swirl of energy. But yeah, if I summarize it, or if I try to summarize it, exercise, self-confidence, fitness, active lifestyle puts one in a place of being his or her best self, which then means you are in a place to put your energy towards whatever you want to put it to, personal, professional goals, etc.
I love that. Yeah. And I think I think the beautiful thing is they'll always be connected, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that
our human body is like a weird ecosystem, right?
It is.
And all these factors kind of connect. And certainly if you find 2 or 3 big dominoes that make you sleep better, that make you feel better, that make you look better, that make you have better energy to contribute to other things, you're probably finding some of the answers there, right?
To kind of get into kind of a smaller section, what are some things that someone can do, an audience member listening to this, to get into the abundance mentality? How can they elevate their mentality? Maybe 1 or 2 things that are tangible that they can start with.
Sure. Yeah, the easy.
Would that be starting at maybe going to the gym, or maybe going for a walk, or going for a run, or does it start self-reflecting? Where would someone start?
Yeah, all of those are good ideas. So I'll kind of try to offer it to the audience in a way that's meaningful. For those that are brand new or kind of brand new to it, start small. That could be the simple things. Are you eating 3 balanced meals a day? Are you having 2 snacks a day? Are you drinking 2 liters of water a day? Are you getting about 7.5 hours of quality sleep? Start with the basics. Like if you're not doing those things, start there. Other simple things in the early stage, journal of gratitude. Write down 1 or 2 things that you're thankful for in the morning, when you first rise, or before you go to bed. So it's kind of anchoring either the beginning or the end of your day. It creates a mental habit, and it forces one to think of, instead of worry, anxiety, or uncertainty, it also balances that to a degree by saying, despite these things, these are still true, but I'm also thankful for 1 or 2 things. So it kind of balances your mindset. Figure out what figure out what the things are that make you happy. That could be going for a walk. That could be time with your dog. That could be exercise. That could be watching a movie. That could be being around your cohort of friends. Like whatever that is for you, ask yourself, how often are you doing that? Is it once a month? Because maybe you need to increase it to once a week. Maybe you need to increase it to once a day. So if there's 2 or 3 things that I really enjoy, but I haven't made time to do them, change that a little bit. Change your schedule. So that's the kind of the easy early end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, if people are like much further along and they've already practiced these things and it's part of their habit, part of their routine already, and they're looking to go further, I think they're probably already going to know the answer. But some ideas are to like extreme challenge. What's one thing that you believed you never could do? Write it down. And then ask yourself, why is it that I believe I can't do that? Is it me? Is it my fear? Is it like can Raj dunk? Well, maybe Raj can't dunk because it's physically impossible because he's getting older now and he doesn't have the genetic makeup to dunk. But maybe he could. I don't think I can dunk. But you know,
yeah.
Like ask yourself, is it something that truly you cannot do for a real reason, objectively? Or is it something that subjectively you have convinced yourself you cannot do? And which is it? And then if it's subjective, if you really want to do it, what would it take to make you do it tomorrow or 6 months from now or a year from now? Like if it's really a priority for you, let's make it happen. If it's just subjective that's blocking you, that can happen. If it's objective that's blocking you, that can't happen. Call it a wash, smile, and move on, right? So that would be some ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I know I'll wrap it up in maybe one or two questions, but I'm curious, for you, you know, what are the next couple years looking like? And I know that's tough to say because, you know, we've had a pandemic. We're in the midst of a pandemic in business, in life, especially because this is the business series. What is that? What's the next 3 to 5 years kind of looking? I know, and last time you did mention this, and I'll bring it up, that you don't know. Is the answer still the same? Do you not know? Is there a certain anchor? Is there a certain value, characteristic, anything that you're kind of using to anchor yourself through this pandemic mentally? Is there something that you want to do that you haven't attained yet? And what approach are you taking, especially during an uncertain time like this?
Well,
I know that's like a big, hefty question.
No, that's a great question. That's a great question. So just for the audience's sake, we're filming this in the middle of November. I don't know when it'll air, but it's the middle of November now. So COVID-19 first came to light. I think it was February. So we're like, we're 9 months into this process now. So to frame your question, it's roughly 9 months thus far. I went through a stage very early with my team in February and many months after that, where we were thinking, our chronological mindset was what's going to happen in the next hour. And we didn't know. And I think everybody on the planet probably had some version of that. So we went through it too, and we started planning the next hour, then the next hour after that, and the next hour after that, and we went through that journey. Then things got kind of stabilized, and we started thinking what will occur tomorrow, and then what will occur next week, and what will occur next month. And now we're getting into the stage of your question, which is, are we ready to start thinking about the next 3 to 5 years? Kind of, yes. I mean, I think we're 9 months in. More like on the business side, I'm starting to plan for the next quarter for sure, and starting to plan for the next year for sure. So I'm in that time frame business wise. Usually for us, the next year will kind of be the domino that leads to the next 3 to 5 years. So I haven't established firm goals for the next 3 to 5 years. I don't have those.
Yeah.
I have a general direction, but there's nothing specific. We have specifics for the next quarter for sure, and for the next year. And then there's always opportunities, right? And those opportunities might be kind of in our control, kind of out of our control. So every opportunity that comes our way or that we're looking for, there's a bit of an evaluation process. Is this right for us? Does it check all of our boxes? Are we ready? Are we in that place of this is the right amount of healthy discomfort for our team and our company, or is it not? And where do we land in that analysis, and therefore then in the answer, and therefore then in our execution? I don't know if I'm answering your question, but the mindset went from very tight timeframes to now more broad timeframes.
Right.
My approach towards all that is there's a backdrop of uncertainty for all of us. Is the pandemic going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Is there unknown? Is there going to be a second pandemic? I don't know. So yes, there's always a backdrop of uncertainty, and this has really brought it to light. This has forced us to be aware of that. With that being said, my mindset, going back to your question, has been a lot about, in the last 9 months, has been about recalibration and ongoing growth despite that. So there is the uncertainty. We can't question it, but we also can't, as much as we can change it, whatever procedures and policies and efforts we make, we will do. Due diligence, put forward best practice, put forward best efforts. Once we've done that, that's as much as is in our control currently. If we learn more, we will put more in our control and we will do more. But once that's there, that's the foundation of safety. Now, recalibrate and grow. That's the mindset. Yeah.
I love that.
So recalibration has been kind of, it's an opportunity, right? There's going to be pros and cons, but there's hope attached to that. When recalibrating, you can try to develop efficiencies. You can try to see, there's some team members that were, not highlighted before, and now they can shine. Maybe there's an opportunity for you to really look at your business and see if there's other things that maybe you were missing before, or new tech solutions, new app solutions. There's all these opportunities now. There's a lot of new, right? New is the key. New norm.
Yeah.
It's a phrase we're using.
Yeah.
Well, that applies to business as well. What's your new norm? Working from home, virtual, stand-up desk, tech solutions, saving time, not driving. So what do you use? How do you use that time? Is it personal? Is it professional? That's okay. There's a beauty to that. So there's lots of pros, despite there's some cons as well. So my approach has been very much recalibrate, evaluate pros and cons, look for the pros where they are, and then grow and try to go in that direction.
I like that. One of the last things I'm going to ask, this is going to go into another question, but how do you use technology, especially with your industry and where you're at? A lot of it is people driven. Totally. Right? It's very hands-on. It's very one-on-one.
It's an in-person service.
It's an in-person. Yeah. So now that a lot of businesses have been trying to adapt online and digital because they've been forced to with the pandemic,
right?
How have you taken the approach towards technology, towards the unknown? Because you have been testing out, you've been more active online, you've been more testing out certain waters. Yeah. What's your approach to that?
You're right. First of all, our industry is very much in person as much as possible. It's a hands-on service. So whenever possible, that is ideal. Yeah. When the pandemic first struck, February, March, April, we were doing some telehealth services. So that means that we were offering physiotherapy virtually with people in their homes or in their families' homes through a video camera. And that brings opportunity because they can do it from the comfort of their home. There's no mask required. They can be in a safe space. Those are the opportunities. Obviously, the drawbacks are you have to try to learn how to communicate and evaluate patients through a camera. And you have to try to deliver the same quality of service through a camera, which brings challenges. That's one side. On the customer service side, online booking, getting paperless documents, getting efficient tech reminders, text reminders, email reminders, like going in that direction is certainly something we were doing before, but we've dialed up the volume on those things in the last 9 months. And we will continue to dial up the volume on those things in the coming year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap this up, Raj. Honestly, man, this conversation was every time I have a conversation with you, there's always something I can take away.
Likewise.
I appreciate your time. One thing I want to leave is there something you want to leave for the audience? Could be a question, could be a statement, could be something. I want to give you kind of that, the last bit here to give our audience one last thing. Could be anything.
I wasn't expecting that, but I like it. Okay. Yeah. Well, given that your avatar audience member is roughly in their mid-20s and roughly somebody who's looking to grow personally and or professionally, I'll probably leave it with a question to the audience. So each of you that are watching, I would ask, A, what are your current mental habits And B, do they serve you? I lied. And C, if they don't serve you, how can you recalibrate or fine tune them a little bit to help direct them in a direction that does help better your personal and or professional journey?
Always leaving it with a banger. Thank you, Raj. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Omid.